With a pledge to create wealth and guarantee welfare, the Congress Party has released a 55-page manifesto today. From minimum income guarantee to a separate budget for farmers, the Kisan budget. Also the promise of universal health care. The Congress makes a long list of promises to voters. The party is also promising sweeping reforms to the GST architecture. Also make job creation its #1 priority. There are some bold ideas as well, and these include scrapping of the electoral bonds that have been at the center of controversy, including the Election Commission coming out very strongly against them. A GST council-like structure for education and healthcare is also something that the Congress Party is proposing. Strategic disinvestment, which was not part of the Congress Party strategy in UPA 1 or UPA 2, is now being brought in. Also, legislation to ensure equal pay for women. The question, though, is how will the Congress fund these welfare schemes? Can it manage the fiscal deficit and welfare spending at the same time? First of all, can this vision document bring the Congress back to power? The BJP has called the Congress manifesto dangerous and not implementable. Before we start discussing the manifesto, here's the Congress-BJP face-off.
The manifesto contains a solemn statement of the Congress President that whenever he makes a promise, he never breaks it. But when out of ignorance he makes unimplementable and dangerous promises, I am sure the country will not be in a mood to oblige him.
I concede that it's unimplementable by a BJP government. But why do you assume that a future government can't implement it? Promises in this manifesto are a 5-year program. It's not going to happen the day after the government assumes office.
इकोनॉमी बिल्कुल फंसी है और उसको जंप स्टार्ट करने की जरूरत है, शॉक थेरेपी की जरूरत है, और इसीलिए हम शॉक थेरेपी और डायरेक्ट पैसा हिंदुस्तान के सबसे गरीब लोगों के जेब में डाल रहे हैं। वो पैसा, जैसे ही वो पैसा उनके जेब में जाएगा, वो चीजें खरीदना शुरू करेंगे। जैसे ही वो चीजें खरीदना शुरू करेंगे, इकोनॉमी फायर होगी, स्टार्ट होगी, और जो हमारे यूपीए के समय ग्रोथ के लेवल्स थे वो ही फिर से हो जाएंगे।
एक एक बयान जब एक ब्लफ स्कीम पे आता है, पहला आया था कि ओवर एंड अबव, पहले कुछ नहीं था, दूसरा आया ओवर एंड अबव, तीसरा आया फंडिंग कहां से करोगे। डॉक्टर राजन ने कहा विल सी द फिस्कल डेफिसिट आफ्टर द इलेक्शन, अगर फिस्कल डेफिसिट अलाउ करेगा तो करेंगे, नहीं तो नहीं करेंगे। अभिजीत बैनर्जी ने कहा टैक्स बढ़ा के होगा। चिदम्बरम साहब ने कहा कि जब एक मुर्गी रख लेंगे कई अंडे देगी, अर्थव्यवस्था एक्सपैंड करेगी, उसी में से फंड कर देंगे। और आज कह दिया इसका काफी खर्चा हम राज्यों से ले लेंगे। और मान लीजिए राज्य खड़े होकर कह दे कि भाई जो मैं मौजूदा दे रहा हूं, जो केंद्र की सरकार और मैं मिलके जो दे रहे हैं, आपसे 1.5 गुना ज्यादा दे रहे हैं, तो हमें आपका यह सुझाव पसंद नहीं है।
गब्बर सिंह टैक्स को हम जीएसटी में बदलेंगे। 5 अलग अलग टैक्स हैं, अलग अलग फॉर्म भरने पड़ते हैं, रिश्वत देनी पड़ती है। हम एक सिंपल टैक्स देंगे, कम से कम टैक्स होगा, सरल सिंपल टैक्स होगा। ये काम कांग्रेस पार्टी ने मैनिफेस्टो में लिखा है, ये भी हम डिलीवर करके दे देंगे।
जीएसटी, अब एक ना समझी उसका 10 बार मैं जवाब दे चुका हूं। अगर कोई समझने कोई तैयार ना हो तो विषय है एक ही रेट लगाएंगे। गरीब आदमी के लिए जो कपड़ा है, जो उसके लिए चप्पल है, क्या उस पे और एयर कंडीशनर पे एक ही रेट लगेगा?
Well, to take the discussion forward, we're now joined by Syed Zafar Islam of the BJP, Sanjay Jha of the Congress Party, Rahul Verma, a fellow at the Center for Policy Research, Sharat Pradhan, senior journalist. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Sanjay Jha, let me start by asking you, we just saw that face-off there between the Congress Party as well as the Finance Minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley. The Finance Minister says your manifesto is dangerous, your promises are unimplementable. Sanjay Jha, your time starts now.
Shirin, let me tell you, I'm hardly astonished at that response from Arun Jaitley, who has to be easily the most disastrous finance minister in our parliamentary history. After all, demonetization, the terrible execution of GST, India's wretched private investment, poor and pathetic performance in exports have all happened under his watch. So I don't want to waste my time, responding to his hyperbole. I think if Mr. Jaitley believes that the Congress manifesto, which by the way, Shirin, is a bottom-up manifesto, we have actually talked and consulted with all the stakeholders. For example, when it comes to the rural distress, we have had conversations with farmers. We have had conversations with people who are part of the entire mechanism of distribution of food grains, etc.
Yeah.
For jobs, we have talked to people from the MSME sector. We have talked to the youth of India. So for Mr. Jaitley to dismiss this as unimplementable is basically mocking the very people who have suffered under the 5 years of Narendra Modi, what I call as a wretched economy. So what is the truth? The truth is that this is a landmark. This is a landmark manifesto, Shirin, and I want to just take 15 seconds more because we have made sure that the people of India will take manifestos very seriously. There is a blueprint for jobs. There is an action plan for agrarian distress. We have talked about how we are going to actually make Nyay work in terms of the overall scheme outlines. Obviously, we'll discuss the finer points of the budgetary issues as we form the government. There are details here in terms of how we are going to boost the economy. There are aspects of national security and foreign policy covered. We have talked about the fact that there will be a Kisan budget, a historic separate Kisan budget.
Yes.
Manrega will go up to 150 days. I think there are fundamental issues of the rural economy and the larger role of industry and MSME that we have covered. Besides, of course, governance and how to make CBI and the NIA and the Election Commission independent.
As well as doing away with electoral bonds, replacing the Niti Aayog with the leaner organization. Those are all ideas that the Congress manifesto running into 55 pages does have. I'm not disputing the fact that there is thought that's gone into the manifesto. My simple question, though, Sanjay Jha, and I'll get to how do you intend to fund this and all of that later. But my simple question to you is that eventually people have to buy what you're selling. There are two very distinct narratives that are being sold today. The narrative the Congress party has presented today is one that is based on economic thrust, on economic development. Jobs is the #1 page in that 55-page manifesto. The BJP, on the other hand, is painting a narrative based on national security. It's painting a narrative based on keeping the country safe and secure. The question is, in the current climate, in the current environment, are voters going to buy what you're selling?
Shirin, let me tell you that all the Congress workers, all the Congress candidates who are fighting the election, they are already out there disseminating what's in the manifesto today, what's been announced today, and the scheme of Nyay, etc., that we have already talked about earlier. The process is on. Let me tell you, I agree with you. It's a formidable challenge given the fact that there's limited amount of time. But we do believe the very fact that Narendra Modi is actually brought in a communal color to the campaign, if you heard his speech yesterday, or the fact that the BJP is creating this ultra-nationalism pitch on national security, where ironically I think they have been a disaster. Otherwise, Pulwama terror attack where 45 of our CRPF soldiers died would have never happened. So it's an irony that the BJP is talking about national security, but end of day, we are bringing the issues which are, we call it meat and potatoes issue. The fundamentals, the real things that affect the common man, the middle class, the business, the MSME sector. And I think jobs and rural distress are something that we are finding have got the people angry, they're disillusioned, they want some action. And as a responsible party that has been in governance in the past, we have provided a very credible alternative.
Yeah. All of those statements that people are angry, whether people are in fact angry or they're angry enough to vote out the incumbent, we will know on the 23rd of May. But let me bring in Syed Zafar Islam. Syed, as I pointed out very clearly, the Congress is in a sense pushing the Vikas, the development agenda through its manifesto. It's reiterating the promise on employment. It's reiterating its promise on job creation, on education, healthcare spending, and so on and so forth. The BJP seems to, at this point in time, very clearly not be taking the Vikas route to 2019. It's taking the national security route to 2019. When do we expect your manifesto, and is this the narrative that the BJP will continue to push?
Shireen, let me respond to your question, and what Mr. Sanjay Jha has spoken, I will respond to him as well. First of all, the manifesto of Congress has ideas full of, it is disastrous, it is dangerous, it is something non-deliverable, it is misleading, it is misrepresenting the Indian economy, and it's full of lies, and something which again Congress is attempting, which they have attempted in the past. But they must realize it is not Congress, it is not India of 1970s, it is India of 2020s, and everyone understands that what the true intent is and what you can deliver, how much capability you have, how much capacity you have, and what you can do, what you can't do. Let me start with NAI scheme. NAI scheme, what they are propagating and they're trying to populate among the masses, everyone will ask two questions, and I must pose this question to Mr. Sanjay Jha first, that the government, as the Honorable Finance Minister has very clearly stated that and not once, he has done two conferences, press conference, and in each press conferences, when the question was asked, posed to him, he clarified that the benefit already being passed on to the beneficiaries is 5,43,000 crore, which actually, if translated to 1,17,400 per person in their accounts through eight checks. Now, Mr. Rahul Gandhi is saying that he will provide 72,000 income. Agreed, if at all, if they want to provide, it's already being provided. Almost twice of that amount is already being provided. But if he does say that it is over and above, which he has said, then he said that over and above, then I must ask that Mr. Rahul Gandhi, you must clarify what is the source of funding. And again, when I say the source of funding, then he must also clarify whether they will reduce the revenue expenditure. If it does, then where is the headroom of reducing the revenue expenditure? You know that the committed costs and the interest burden on the budget, the budgetary allocation is everyone known to everyone, and how much maneuvering you can do is also known to everyone. The second question, if he wants to do from the budgetary allocation, then whether they want to raise more, they want to increase taxes. If they want to increase taxes, then the intent of the government of India for the last 5 years that we are reducing the taxes, we are increasing the tax base, and we are giving relief to the common citizen of this country by reducing the income tax burden. Well, Congress wants to do a tax terrorism, increase the tax burden to the people of this country. Second, if they say the tax they will not increase the tax, then they will do the additional borrowing. Just a second, additional borrowing. Then they want to. We have reduced the government borrowing. Actually, debt to GDP has come down in our 5 years, and if they want to again risk the country by raising more money and giving burden of the future. No, let me just come.
Zafar,
you have given time.
Zafar.
Let me respond.
No, one second.
I will respond many other things.
I've noted. Just 1 second. You've listed down several items.
I have so many things to respond
to that, so that we don't. Exactly. While I'll get him to respond to all of that. So just hold on. Disastrous, dangerous, misleading, misrepresentation, full of lies, Sanjay Jha. That's your manifesto. Now let's talk specifically as far as the NAI scheme is concerned. Where is the money going to come from? I'm reading from your manifesto because you talk about rolling this out, and this is a big if at all you come to power, then this is the plan, that you will roll it out in phases. The estimated cost will be less than 1% of GDP in year 1, less than 2% of GDP in year 2 and thereafter. You're also talking about how this scheme will be funded through new revenue and rationalization of expenditure, and current merit subsidy schemes that have no longer serve their purpose will be done away with, and only those that serve merit will be continued with. So, simple question to answer what Zafar is saying. How are you going to fund this, and is this over and above the existing schemes that the central government has already put in place?
Sharon, first question, it is over and above the existing subsidies. When Mr. Chidambaram mentions rationalizing expenditure, or the Congress party says that, it does not mean a cut down in expenditure. It just means that you will reduce inefficiencies in distribution. I also want to tell you, where tax is concerned, there is, and this is a very responsible statement I make on your channel. There will be no taxes on the middle class. There will be no taxes on women. There will be no taxes on the people for whom the take-home pay is very critical. What we are talking about, however, is to make the tax system a lot more efficient and definitely a lot more equitable. Now, obviously, there are a lot of stuff that we'll talk about when we actually come to the bridge. But let's address the other issue. I think Mr. Chidambaram has been at pains to explain that. And Shirin, I need to be very clear on your channel. You see, India, if it registers even the nominal growth rate that we expect it to, I mean, they actually add to your taxable revenues. They are actually getting surpluses to make an investment in. And we have looked at the overall structure and we find that if you reduce leakages, make your tax system a lot more efficient, you can also cut down on leakages. You can look at your entire subsidy structure and make sure there are no overlaps and leakages. You are able to robustly finance it. So when we are telling at the moment with full responsibility, there will be fiscal prudence, there will be no slippage, and we'll be able to meet all the NII deliverables, which will be not, all of it will not happen in the first 6 months. We are talking from where we actually have done our homework down to the last rupee. So the BJP's anxiety is understandable because the Congress has taken the wind out of the sails of anything they have in mind. I'm waiting to see the BJP manifesto because end of day, the last time they came up with one, they came up after the campaigning began.
Okay, Zafar is smiling. Zafar, when can we expect your manifesto?
Well, in a couple of days, I'm sure in the next 3-4 days,
he doesn't know. He doesn't know.
He doesn't know. Bharatiya Janata Party. But let me. Mr.
Gentlemen, just give me a second.
We are having a civilized debate, please.
Gentlemen, just give me a second.
Let me respond to him.
Let me just bring in Ritika Kher. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Zafar.
All I'm saying that didn't you get the sense that how confused Sanjay Jha? I think Mr. Rahul Gandhi was talking about shock. All the Congress leaders need a shock. They do not know how the country is in the last 5 years doing, and the economy has been put in back in shape when how they were in 2013. You need a shock. You have already got a shock in 2014. When we are reduced to 44, you will be further reduced by the people of this country. When you ignore the issues of national security and issues of national importance, you will get a shock. And shock will be, you will get a shock when the people of India will have the opportunity to cast their vote.
Okay, I need to bring in our other panelists as well. Ritika Khera, Associate Professor at IIM Ahmedabad with us. Ritika, many thanks for joining us. A lot of emphasis on economy, on the development, on matters related to unleashing the animal spirits of industry, job creation, of course the Nyay scheme. What do you make of what the Congress has proposed in its 55-page manifesto?
See, as a development economist who works on social policy issues, there are certainly many things that I welcome in the broad strokes, but obviously I have all kinds of questions about the details. So I think the emphasis on health and education is very important. And more than Nyay, which has been hogging the limelight, I think the promise on a Universal Health Care Act, and even within that, the increase in expenditure, but not an increase in expenditure that will go only to insurance, but rather to primary health care, appointment of ashas, etc., is very welcome. As far as Nyay is concerned, if I may, I think the best way to make it workable, because at the moment, whatever details they're divulging, I don't think it's workable, but one important or one way to make it workable would be to think of Nyay as a complement to NREGA. NREGA for those who can work and Nyay, a cash transfer for those who cannot work, and that would include old people, widows, single women, pregnant and lactating women, persons with disabilities, and that would add up to 10 to 12% of the population, and they would be really the poorest amongst the poorest 20%. The third thing that was sort of interesting for me was, filling up vacancies in government. I mean, there is all this talk about jobs. That's not really, I mean, of course, that's an important perspective, but that's not the way I'm approaching it. I think the hollowing out of the government in basic services has been very damaging. And this is not just this government, it's a longer-term trend, and that needs to be reversed. I don't know if I should be happy or sad, but as far as Aadhaar is concerned, there is one flicker of a recognition in their manifesto of the problems it has created. And that is quite disappointing in a sense because, Congress party in UPA 2 unleashed this monster on the country. And I wish that in the light of all the evidence in the past few years, they would have had the decency to say we made a mistake. But what they're saying is too limited. They're saying we'll look for other ways of authentication and we'll encourage but not make Aadhaar linking compulsory. But we know that as far as Aadhaar is concerned, voluntary means compulsory. It's like Orwell's 1984.
Yeah. At least for government,
I think those are the broad
subsidies, that's the way forward.
Thing, if I may, which was,
Ritika.
I do welcome the announcement on removing the sedition law and diluting or whatever it is they've promised as far as AFSPA is concerned. I think those things must be welcomed.
Well, removing the sedition law is part of the Congress manifesto's promises, which, by the way, the BJP has spoken out against. But Ritika, on balance, the ask of being able to marry the guaranteed welfare schemes with growth, productivity and the fiscal deficit, it's going to be a challenge. But on balance, do you believe that it is achievable with the right policies and the right details being worked out? Because they made a promise of fiscal deficit of 3% by 2022. Yeah.
So actually, I'm glad you asked that. See, I think the fiscal space sort of exists, but it's just that the fiscal space is now being hogged by better off people. So there is this tax revenue foregone, and there used to be a time where the tax revenues foregone to gold and diamond were on par almost with the NREGA budget. So, this is a question of priorities. That's one thing. The other thing is that in the international comparative perspective, India's income tax base is relatively small. And also our marginal rates of taxation are on the lower side. So there's some scope there. And third, which I think is really important to put center stage on the agenda, is a wealth tax. And I think there's something in the manifesto about that. There are estimates that if you do a wealth tax on just 0.1%, the richest 0.1% of the population, it can yield 1 or 2% of GDP depending on what tax rate you levy. But that tax rate would be 2 or 3%. So at a very small, on a very small base, you would levy a very small wealth tax. And in any case, you're seeing all these wealthy people do philanthropy. So might as well, the government, because the government, I think, has better ideas of what can. I mean, of course, they have to be held to account. I'm not, I don't have a rose-tinted view of the government. They have obviously need to be held to account. But I do think that the CSR companies struggle with good ideas. I think the wealth tax and tax revenue foregone and some reforms on the income tax side, much more on the base than maybe the tax rates would be helpful.
Much more on the base, but there is fiscal space. It is a question of getting the priorities right. Ritika Khera, development economist at IIM Ahmedabad, thanks very much for joining us. Sharad Pradhan, let me come to you. We can talk about numbers and what this means as far as fiscal deficit is concerned, savings and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, will it sway the voters? Do you think that the Congress manifesto has enough to create a narrative that the voter will buy?
I think Congress party is doing what all parties keep doing, making an alluring budget, manifesto. The whole idea is to lure the voters into, into the party's kitty. And that is what we are expecting. That's why, every party talks of doles. If BJP had talked of giving 2,000 rupees, which is 6,000 rupees a year, they've talked of 72,000. So the idea, and doles in this country, rightly or wrongly, do make an impact. So they are politically very wise, and they know where to hit the nail on the head. And so that's the reason that it's more about luring the voter into towards them rather than actually doing something for the economy. Nobody talks of providing the rightful return for their produce, the agriculture. Farm distress is largely because the farmers don't get the right return for their produce. what is legitimately due to them.
Yeah.
Instead of doing something concrete on that front, they start giving out doles.
Since you talked about agriculture, let's focus a little bit about what the Congress has promised on agriculture and whether you think that will work at all. The first time the Congress party is talking about a separate Kisan budget so that there is clarity on how much money the farmer is getting, where it's being spent, how it's being used. You think that this could be an idea that will gain currency, will gain traction?
Well, you know, as I said, they know the grassroots reality, and they know that this is one issue where the BJP has been weak, and this is where if they hit there, that could turn the rural voter, the farmer, towards the Congress, and that's the reason they are trying this.
Okay.
But how much of it is, you know, and they are trying to, you know, because Rahul Gandhi has this. In the backdrop of what they had done earlier, he has some kind of credibility as far as farmers' loan waivers are concerned. So if he makes a promise, they are likely to get influenced by that. And how much of it will be countered by the BJP in their manifesto will be seen in the next few days.
BJP, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Yes, as far as farms concerned, the Congress manifesto promising a separate Kisan budget. NREGS, 100 days guaranteed, will now go to 150 days is what the Congress is promising. Of course, an export-import policy for agriculture, doing away with the APMCs and so on and so forth. That list goes on. Rahul Verma, will it work is the question. What did you like? What do you believe? What do you not believe?
Okay, so a couple of points. So first, I think a lot of things in this manifesto are good, as Ritika Khera pointed out. But the problem with manifestos are a couple of things. Any political party in the campaign mode is going to promise the moon.
Absolutely.
Right? So even when we will look at BJP's manifesto, they are going to make similar promises. I think elections are not just contested on the promise, right? You need machine party workers on the ground, you need organization, you need leadership.
Winnable candidates.
Yeah. But you also need, like, there has to, so elections are essentially about the competitive credibility of promises. You can make promises, but it has to look credible.
Yes.
Right? So the question is whether Congress has that kind of credibility to make promises and whether people will buy that. The third and most important thing is, like, if you ask any master's student of economics, they are going to talk about very similar thing, and we'll see very similar things coming out in BJP manifesto. But the bigger issue which Congress is facing is elections are also contested on vision for India. So in 2014, Modi, for good or bad, Modi offered a vision, right? And Modi is making a similar campaign even in 2019. Now, you may disagree with that campaign, that it is basically restricted on national security and religion, but there is sort of like a vision built around India first.
Right.
Now, Congress in like 55-page manifesto and 54-page of like pledges does not tie these things into one broad vision. And unless you have a vision, that it is hard to sell.
Sanjay Jha, that's an important point that's being raised here by Rahul Verma. Respond to that. He's giving you credit for the fact that you've put together a thought-through manifesto, several promises that may resonate with the voter, but at the end of the day, he believes, have you been able to stitch together an alternative narrative that will sell? And that was my very first question to you.
Sharon, let me tell you, when a political party that has experience of governance brings up issues that are affecting the common man today, with due respects to Rahul Verma, do we even know how many farmers have committed suicide over the last couple of years because the data is being hidden? Even the number of unemployed youth in our country, the famous demographic dividend that is completely now being destroyed, is a question of debate. So where has India come to? Does Mr. Rahul Verma agree or disagree with me when I tell him that India's basic data is now being questioned? The credibility of Indian government data is being mocked at. Now, these are serious issues. Now, what are we doing in this manifesto, Shirin? We have covered not just the farmers, which is, by the way, 70% of India.
Those might be serious issues. those might be serious issues, but are those issues something that will resonate with an audience outside of Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, outside of the metros? That's the point that I think Rahul Verma is trying to make. And is there an overarching vision that you're being able to present credibly?
Sharon, let me tell you, the story of our manifesto is an inclusive growth model for the people of India. In fact, not just that, we have talked about freedom of expression. We have talked about laws that have been impacting the people who are watching your program, the element or the culture of fear. I think this manifesto basically addresses the problems of the middle class, the aspirational youth of our country.
Okay.
We have talked about the low-hanging fruits, the jobs that are waiting to be filled that this government hasn't filled up. I think we capture everything. Now, to believe that just because Narendra Modi and the BJP are talking about hyper-nationalism and that is the predominant agenda is, I don't know, that's your personal view.
Okay.
But I believe that as you run away from Delhi and Mumbai and go into the rural interiors of our country, the issues become more dynamic and the issues are more real, when people are facing the anguish or the pain of a government that's betrayed them, let them down.
Okay, let me get Rahul very quickly to comment on that. Rahul, very quickly.
Quick point. Sanjay ji, I completely agree with what you're saying. Congress has done a good job in producing a great manifesto. See, no one is going to deny that issues of agrarian distress, joblessness is there in Indian society. The question is not whether these issues are not real. The question is, can it be mobilized in a way that it leads to electoral success for the Congress? Now, do you have a mobilizational plan for that? Did Congress party took out a big rally of farmers in the country in last 1 year? Did you do a big youth rally on the question of joblessness in last 1 year?
Sanjay, I'll get you to respond. I'll get you to respond. Let me just. I just need to get Yogendra in as well because you raised that issue of mobile. I'll just come back, Sanjay. I'll just come back to you. Yogendra Yadav, Rahul Verma here raising the issue on whether it's a nice, neat manifesto. It talks about the right things, but can it eventually mean electoral success for the Congress party? Your take on whether this is going to fly, whether this is enough, or does it fall short?
Shirin, that really is the question. As a policy document, I don't think it's a bad document. There is some bit of flourish, a bit of rhetoric sometimes, but it's not a Jumla document, a document which is written seriously. As a political document,
so that is the question. That's an important statement coming from you, Yogendra Yadav. That's an important, But I just want to point out that you're saying that this is not a Jumla document. Whether it pays off or not is a separate story.
There are many things on which I may have disagreement. I do. As farm activist, I would have wanted a little more than what they have done. But there is at least a recognition of two crucial demands. One, that of loan waiver, and two, remunerative prices. For both these, the institutional mechanism suggested by farmers' movement finds its place, though not in a way that I would approve of in 100%, but at least it brings those issues to the fore. The issue of unemployment gets recognized and registered. But the big question I think Rahul was asking, it's a very legitimate question. Is this the political document Congress needed to produce at this stage in order to bring the election back on rails? In English you have that, that phrase, too little, too late. I wouldn't say too little. It's too much, but too late. That's the problem.
Okay. Too much, but too late. So you believe that the voter has already made up its mind? I'm just coming to you, Sanjay, because that should be good news and music to your ear. So Yogendra Yadav, you believe that the voter has probably already made up its mind and that this is not necessarily going to mean advantage for the Congress?
Not necessarily made up their mind finally, but remember, we are only 1 week away from the election. We are in a situation where the ruling party practically controls all communication channels, where 80% of this media dances to their tune, where they have a very powerful communicator. I would call him rebel rouser, but a very powerful communicator. The question is this document going to do the trick for the Congress? That's where the real question is. The question is not about the efficacy of the document. I mean, these things come and go, a little bit of here and there, and no one can have 100% agreement with these documents.
You're absolutely right. Zafar Islam, respond to that. As I said, it might be good news for you. It might be good news for you, what we just heard there from Yogendra Yadav, that it might not be a Jumla manifesto, but at the end of the day, it might be coming too late in the game with pretty much 10 days to go for the first phase.
See, whatever document they would have produced, they have lost the credibility in the eyes of the people of this country by giving hollow promises, not once, time and again. Since 70s, you see, they have given slogans, Garibi Hatao, Bijli Sadak Pani. They have never been. They are good at giving this kind of slogan.
Okay.
But who fulfills that slogan? Another government. This time we have been able to provide electricity, free electricity connection, water, and all the benefits to the people who deserve to get those benefits. But let me tell you, they have lost credibility. People, the receptiveness in terms of this manifesto among the people of this country will be next to negligible. But let me tell you one thing, away from all the rhetorics of Congress and other political activists and leaders I have heard, but one thing which is the people's people's agenda, one agenda which has the people's agenda, and I think we all need to be receptive to that agenda. What is that agenda? Is the national security, and issues of national importance, something which the people of India wants to know, discuss whether they are in safe hand or not, and that is something which we are receptive to those ideas, and we are responding to the people of this country. Yes, making them feel that they are safe. And if Congress wants to distract their mind, it will backfire on them, because those stunts will not work.
Okay. There is a national security that has been addressed in the manifesto. In fact, General Huda has put together the document for the Congress Party. The man behind the strike.
A lot of questions needs to be asked.
Strike.
Can I respond?
General Huda or the Congress Party?
The very concept of national security
I just want to make it clear.
By the BJP.
Yeah.
Both.
Okay. Sanjay Jha, final comments from you.
Well, firstly, I want to make a quick comment on national security. The former naval chief, Mr. Ramdas, has made a comment where he says it's deeply unfortunate how the Bharatiya Janata Party is making politics out of defense services efforts. The same was said by Lieutenant General Huda, who, by the way, led the surgical strike, expressing deep regret at the way the BJP was making political capital out of military endeavors. Very unethical, terribly immoral and unprincipled.
Absolutely.
And I want to make this point here again to what Yogendra Bhai said and what I think Rahul mentioned. That end of day, we are a political party. We are here in this election to win it. And to get the message out at the grassroots level to each and every block, village, and the Congress supporter and the population at large is something that we have been at it for a while. By the way, let me tell you, the manifesto has been released today, but the principal components like Nyay, the MSME, kind of windows that we are creating, all this has been talked about for the last 1 week around that time. So we are in this to win. We are out there campaigning as we talk. A week is a long time in politics, and this election is being fought in phases. So let me reassure you that this manifesto is a strong document, and we are getting it down to each and every household, which so far has been hearing Chaukidar, Chor Hai on Rafale scam. So we will make this into a larger campaign. Rest assured.
Okay, gentlemen, final comments. Yogendra Yadav, it is a 7-phase election. The first phase, 93 seats go to polls on the 11th of April. What are going to be the factors that you will be watching out for starting today, post the manifesto release and the 11th of April?
Shireen, let's look at the larger context. In my own reading, this election is one of the most critical elections in the history of this country after 1977. And at this critical election, the entire election is being hijacked on issues which are not the real issues of the people. The government, which is to provide an account of what it did, instead of doing that, is now derailing it on Hindu, Muslim, on Balakot, on all kinds of things. And the real question then should be, will the Congress Party, with this kind of a manifesto, be able to bring it back on rails? I remain skeptic. I wish Sanjay Jha were too, not because I wish anything good to the Congress Party, but anything that brings it back to real issues would be great news for the country. But I remain skeptical because I think while Mr. Modi has an ability to sell things which don't even exist in his shop, Congress cannot sell things which exist on the counter.
Okay, all right, and that is the big challenge the Congress party faces. It might look good on paper. The question is, will you be able to sell? Will you be able to sell it? They live in fool's paradise. That's another statement coming in there from the BJP, adding to disastrous, dangerous, misleading, misrepresentation, bluff, and all of that the manifesto has been called.
The BJP is panicking.
Gentlemen,
the writing
we will
was on the wall for the BJP.
Okay. Well, do go through the manifesto. Those of you who are interested, there are some interesting ideas there. There's also some ideas that all political parties, I think, should pay some attention to, especially the issue of electoral bonds, which the Supreme Court has come down, which the Supreme Court will take a call on, but the Election Commission has come down very hard on to bring in transparency into political funding, which electoral bonds have done away with. Remember, the amendment was brought into the finance bill to allow electoral bonds. The Congress in its manifesto says it will be done away with. There are other issues related to federal structure, a GST council-like establishment to look at agriculture, healthcare, education. And these are ideas worth considering. These are ideas that we do need to discuss and debate in the interest of the country in the long term. So we will, of course, decode the manifesto of the BJP as and when it is put forward. But for this evening, Shahid Pradhan, you wanted to make a final comment. Go ahead.
Just one comment. If the Congress manifesto also had, there was need to have something to correct the perception that BJP is falsely trying to build, the narrative that is falsely trying to build around national security. They are using their real intent is to divide the society, to forge a divide between Hindus and Muslims, and somehow they bring it round to that narrative and misusing the concept, the very perception about national security, which is being done very blatantly, but the Congress has made no effort to correct that perception before the people.
Okay. All right. Made no
Can I
effort
just
to
respond
correct
to
that perception. Gentlemen, we'll have to leave. Sorry,
10
Zafar,
seconds.
we're out of
10
time,
seconds.
unfortunately. Okay, go ahead.
See, all I'm saying that Congress party, see their history, do a back testing, you will realize that Congress party has survived
Congress
only
party
by dividing
does not
the
need a
society.
certificate on nationalism
And
or
we always have an inclusive approach. That's why our slogan is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and we will continue to focus on inclusive approach without dividing the society. And let me tell you one thing.
We don't need any dissertation from the BJP
We don't need to divide the society. I like you, and that's why you are not
Zafar and Sanjay.
Not even a regional party is willing to shake hands with you.
You are spreading violence.
Gentlemen, we've had a well thought through research discussion. Let's end it there. Zafar Islam, Rahul Verma, Yogendra Yadav, Shahid Pradhan and Sanjay Jha, thanks very much for joining us here on the Election Exchange to take stock of the manifesto put out by the Congress Party. We'll take a break. When we return, there's more coming up on the Election Caravan. NCP Supriya Sule and DMK's Kanimoi on the other side.